April in Australia is one of my favourite months because autumn is in full swing, which is why for this month in my bullet journal I've embraced the vibe and gone heavy on oranges, yellows and cozy things for the ultimate fall aesthetic. Hi, I'm Tash and today we're working on my April bullet journal setup. As usual, we're going through and looking at all the things I've pulled to use for this theme. This time I had so many things that would work for this setup that it was hard to narrow them all down. But it was good to have options since I'm doing very little artwork this time and relying entirely on stickers, papers and tapes. Last month's art heavy theme was a lot of fun, but I'm definitely glad to have less to do this time around. Also, for anyone wondering, I'll have links to as many things in the description box as possible, though some of them may be out of stock or were gifts, so I don't necessarily know where they came from. But if there's anything you want, you can head down there to find it. As I normally do, I'm starting off with my cover spread and calendar. I've allowed more room this month since I still have plenty of journal left and I wanted to do something a little fun, especially because I'm not doing art and other creative things like that. So I'm using these paper frames on each side of the cover page in mostly the same spot and cutting the circle from in between them to create a little window, and then creating a design on the opposite page so you can see a little vignette or a design through the window. It's not necessary by any means, but I like doing something a little creative and special each month. It just makes me feel really happy, so I always lean into it. For the calendar boxes, I'm using these gold number stickers I got from Spotlight here in Australia. Honestly, they're probably too large for the box sizes, but I love how it looks, so I kept it, and I'll just write smaller if I need to. Now I'm using stickers and stuff to bring the spread to life. I'm focusing more on vibe for this theme rather than stickers and the items themselves making sense. That's to say, the colour palette is the main focus, so lots of varying oranges with some yellows and browns and warm tones. Along with that, I'm contrasting the oranges with some pops of blue and then focusing on the vibe of the stickers after the colour, so cozy, warm, autumn type activities and feels. The roll of different pattern strips worked out perfectly for this theme too. I used the plaids and tartans, as well as some others, to lend the fall aesthetic. Kind of like layering warm clothes when you're going for a walk outside in the crisp autumn air. For the fonts, I've not used anything as reference this time, and I've just done a basic cursive in my own handwriting throughout the whole setup. It didn't really feel necessary to add anything big or fancy this time. I do use my number stamps to stamp 2025 on the cover, and I had planned on using the same stamps, with the letters obviously, for all the headings throughout, but the letter stamps that I have in that font are too large, so I opted to just use my handwriting instead. Here you can see how I pull pages from the sticker books that I have, and I lay them over the page to see if I like the sticker in that spot. It means I can get a good idea of how it will look without having to pull the sticker up if I don't end up loving it. This isn't always possible to do if the backing paper is white, but even then, taking it out of the book and laying it on the page can help give you a better idea of the size and placement of things before you commit to actually using it. Here I'm using my Tombow marker number 947 to add a drop shadow to the calendar box, just to add some depth and make it feel finished. I've still got a few little bits and pieces to add to the first cover page and calendar, but moving now to the second cover page and the place for my grocery list, progress and achievements. I'm starting with working out how the decor section will look through the window I cut earlier, trying out some different papers to put behind the sticker that I'm going to use. Oh, here we are now adding the final bits to the first cover page. I got these gorgeous, simple rose gold leaf kind of stickers, which I think add the perfect final touch. The gold adds elegance to the warm colour palette and the leaves work with the autumn theme, and I'm so happy I added them to this setup. Anyway, back to the little window cutout. I wanted it to feel like you were looking through a window into a little world from the first cover page, but then also have it work as an independent decorated section that stands on its own as a part of the page that it's on, if that makes any sense at all. When I was laying down the transparent vellum kind of paper that I use behind the sticker, I used too much glue and I buckled the paper. So that's something to keep in mind when using a wet glue like this one. If I used less glue or clips to hold the paper down, it might not have been so bad. Normally I'd use glue tape, but mine was playing up throughout this whole thing and I was just too annoyed to mess with it. A fun little roll of stickers I got from Journal Say was a bunch of different lanterns. I used them on the calendar and cover spread as well as throughout this whole theme, and I love them so much. It was really fun hanging them from the trees and branches and placing them around to give a cozier and more lived-in feel. They were a bit more desaturated and washed out looking than I would have liked, but otherwise they were a great addition to each spread. Moving on now to the next set of spreads. I combined these all together by making the middle page a Dutch door, and I fit my mood, symptoms, and sleep trackers on the first side of the Dutch door, and then when you flip it you have my things I'm into, songs on repeat, and my self-care trackers, so it's all part of one section. This was definitely easier since I'm using a B5 size journal, so I have a lot more space than I would usually. Something I do like about the way I've set this up is that you can see the mood, symptoms and sleep all on one page, and because I've done it as a Dutch door, you can also see the self-care trackers at the same time, which for me it makes it easier to see at a glance how looking after myself may impact my physical and my mental health. We skipped forwards a little here, so you didn't see me making all the heading tags I'm planning on sticking down. I forgot to record some parts of the footage because of who I am as a person. It actually happened a few times with this video, as well as the second half of the video where I forgot to turn off autofocus, so sorry about that. I always find my mood and symptom pages to be difficult to decorate because they take up so much space, and it can leave some really awkward spaces to try and incorporate into the page and look nice at the same time. And this month was no exception. I made some mistakes, I think, with where I used the dark brown Tombow. I think I should have stuck to using it just as sort of a drop shadow around the edge and leaving the boxes that I did colour in as blank white, the same way that I did with my calendar spread at the start. I also think I over-decorated a little bit as well, because I really loved the balance that I had on my cover spreads, and I wish I'd gone just, a little bit lighter here. That being said, I still really love the final result. I just might have done things a little bit differently if I was to do it over again. Here I'm taking a sticker and cutting it up into pieces to make it fit the space that I want it for a little bit better. That's one tip that I would always give, is don't be afraid to cut stickers or papers or use unconventional materials. Something can be intended for use one way but work just as well or even better if you play around with it. Because I only had long skinny spaces to work with here, cutting up the hanging branches to a single branch meant that I could get the same thing in a smaller space. And so I say, don't be afraid to experiment. Now we're on to the final spread for this video, where I have my April at a glance page and my dashboard. I spoke about my dashboard last video and how I like the idea of it, but some things just weren't really working for me. While I like tracking the weather, I never ever remember to do it, so this month I've dropped that and I've moved my med trackers back to my weekly spreads because it just works better for me that way. Instead, I've made my content planner the main focus of the dashboard, since it makes sense to me to have it closer to my weeklies, which is where I plan what I do each day. I've also added a master cleaning list for the month, and then allowed space on each weekly spread to write down the cleaning for that specific week, as well as a to-do list for that week also. This way I can have a list of cleaning that can be done at any time in the month, and then more week-specific cleaning tasks as well. I've been feeling a bit out of control when it comes to keeping my space clean and organised, and I'm hoping this will be a step in feeling sort of more in control of my surroundings and what I'm doing. You know, those ADHD executive dysfunction feels. Here, I messed up my calendars for my content planner because I'm weird. I like having my weekly start on a Monday, but when writing mini calendars, I prefer them to start on the Sunday. But when I was checking the dates from my phone, I forgot to account for the fact that my phone calendars start on Monday, which messed all my numbers up. I just wrote over the numbers the best I could and left it as it was. I don't love things not being perfect, but it's not the end of the world for it to be a little messy, and I'm working really hard on being better at embracing imperfection. Now I'm pretty much just adding in the finishing details to this spread and going back in and adding any other bits and pieces to previous spreads before I finish up, which is the way that I normally do things. As I usually do, I'd like to ask you to consider subscribing to my channel if you've enjoyed watching my process of creating a monthly bullet journal setup, and I really do hope that you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you've made it all the way to the end of the video, leave me an autumn leaf in the comment section to show that you watched the whole thing, or you can just leave something autumn themed if it's easier. Last month I asked for a potion bottle and it proved difficult, so I'll try and make it easier this time. And while we flip through and have a look at everything that I've done for April, I just want to thank you so much for taking a part of your day or your night to spend with me. It really means so much to me that you'd want to take your precious time and spend it watching something that I've created. With that being said, I hope that you are as safe and as happy as you can be, and I will hopefully see you in my next video.